So. Esger ma hwydynys ffal jyrf gyw cynnwys leswch i'ch sesfoch gyda gafel adja yn y siwmar ys tro Microsoft Teams. Sio cynnwys mae edrych yn y fliwna a dwylich i'ch rhaid. Janaf cynnwys gyfil na microphones ac y fie. Yna chwyd yw Teams ys ffwy yn waifa. Mae sioib y geistioch, rys yn at y llawn gychych ys gyfil sioib son brin cwrf eda'r microphone. Bys tos i sy'n am I gyori y chwnisio nys fymoryston ar trodach y gan o ffac yn ŵni. Tapaloi, Mr.
Lord our God, we ask that you continue to shine on us with your face this day anew as we go on in the deliberations of this day, Lord. We are all a step closer to eternity than we were when we came into this building this morning, Lord, showing us that as time goes on, our time is so limited here on earth. Teach us then this day, Lord, to be humble in thy presence, knowing that thou art the author and finisher of our faith. You are the one to whom we can come to at all times. You are the one who knows us personally and intimately. You know our thoughts, you know our words, you know our actions. Our responsibilities are all known to you, Lord. And as we come to you, Lord, with our responsibilities this day as elected members and officers of this council, we ask that you bless each one of us with our own responsibilities and duties to perform. We thank you, Lord, for all the officers who have prepared reports for this day. We thank you, Lord, for all members present, and we thank you for the chair and vice chair of this committee, Lord, the diligence of everyone concerned. We remember our chief executive as he counts down the days, Lord, as another change in his career, Lord. We see, Lord, that time goes by so quickly. Oh, Lord, we pray that you would uphold each one in differing needs. We are constantly made aware of the brevity of life, and we especially remember our colleague councillor who's seen at this time as he mourns the passing of his beloved brother. O Lord, that you would comfort him and uphold him and keep him. We remember our colleagues, Councillor McKeever and Councillor McLean also as they recover from surgery. O Lord, many differing circumstances in this world. We are a changing people, Lord, but we thank you, Lord, that you are the same yesterday, today and forever. You change not. Go before us now as a committee, Lord. Remember the sick and the suffering as well, Lord. As we come to the end of another year, Lord, many empty places round the tables of people who used to be with us, and we remember those also, Lord. Many taken away, maybe quickly or through illness, one form or another. Remember those who care in our care community, Lord. We ask now that you'll go before us and bless us. Continue with us this day, Lord, and that you continue to do us good and pardon us freely for our many sins. Amen.
Tapaloi, Sir Chwnisio Moryston. Ang hynny'n ish na chwaadach. So daibri stuurich na cynnu cryn dalienis na'r caina. Mae eisiau niw'r bail dyn y chymydu ys y rhiawach tron y computer. Pagaf yr camera ys yr microphone ie. Mae offrygyn rhiawach tron y computer. Pagaf ie yn achwyd. Mae'r eisiau y brin rys yn aisg no ffragod cysd. Cyn yr cain bail ys offrygyn gyfil system fehu as yn hwmar. A smach gag y chariche gyda mics. A mic hier dyn y fehu y bwydgych wain. Ys by chor wainio na'n stad. Yn yr Eileanus y chariche stech mic arwchych y mic gwyjarach. Ys cafi ach da mic jarach ag yn yma aym. A sio person tydych gwychys fagif yw'r mic ys mae ha ofricyn y brin di aisg cwnig yn yraf yn y rwyd i ianw. Heich priamach ys o hord do bail y chymydi cydjo. An y daifri cwar fe mi bail y siwmar agal no crioch y chwyr yr eisioch o far y bilsiau. Appendix 1 to item 4 is classed as private. If members want to discuss anything in relation to this appendix, we will need to pause and go into private. Prior to moving into private, participants other than the relevant officer and members will be asked to leave the meeting. And I am ruling item 7 as urgent to allow the committee to consider the matter before the next series of meetings. Finally, a reminder that the meeting has been recorded and will be made available on CONUS website following the meeting. Garth Counterson, hier Kusbar, Garth Counterson kan u 3 jaar featured gaan consulten. Sasje is zo'n eindigig. Beleid. Arna cwsper chwaar u, a u ag bail an y cwsper sy bi a chwaar oprach bechor gaib sy'n y chwaarach, bi a ffeimel mae'n eisiau bail yn yber wil at y chwaarach u, the cwsper. Now we're moving on to the presentation item 3, the community-led local development, the Youth Local Action Group. And we want to welcome Ross Budge and Hector Malcolm to the committee and who are going to be presenting today. But first of all, Maida Byrne is going to speak to report. Thank you.
Blijven karige, het kan je met allera fakkel na ja, man hoort een karige ha cheese van een wailag nu Youth Local Action Group ag in de show. She parsken een schema CLLD Community-led Local Development le realtors na halpa ha show. Ha torchach het Munich han Nilan ag she wailag magabik een boeien oigriaken die at de chier agus chechericht agus hat heen dolíise gaif man na hat Ervision agus na ha fan gaif.
Live, Ross and Hector, the stage is yours. I think you need to put your microphones on so people online will hear you. Maybe move a bit closer to the mic as well.
Pescamahul Dunia. It's Mr. Ross.
Agus Echid McCallum and Taramahora.
And we're here on behalf of the Outer Hebrides Youth Local Action Group. In this presentation, we're going to give a brief overview on who we are, what we do, what we've achieved, and what our aspirations are for the future. First, who are the WILAG? We are a group of 9 young islanders from a variety of professional and academic backgrounds. I myself studied history and international relations at university, and for the last 3 years, I've been working with startup companies.
And I myself am a current psychology student at UHI. For the past 4 years, I was an employability training officer in the council. And incidentally, my undergraduate was at Lewis Castle College in sustainable development.
But at the core, we are all volunteers with a passion for youth action and community development. Our members come from a variety of backgrounds, ranging from politics, government, community development, and technology. Our primary function is to allocate funding to groups based on our 5 priorities, which are shown here. Empowering young people, duchas and dulchas, personal and professional development, entrepreneurship, and health and well-being. So the last 4 years, we have delivered over £100,000 to over 30 different projects throughout the Outer Hebrides, from the Butt to Barra. These groups range from community groups, social enterprises such as Macaulay College, sports groups such as the Barra Running Club, various local football associations and others, and music, art and cultural groups such as Keolis down in South Uist and the Phage up in Stornoway. Here's a breakdown of the WILAG Fund. As you see on the chart here, you can see how the funding we see how the funding we've allocated each financial year has increased. And in the pie chart, you see how the funding has been spread throughout the Hebrides. Here are some photos from recent project visits. Project visits are essential for us to engage with the communities we funded, see how the money is best spent, and how we are able to make a meaningful change with the powers that we have to allocate funding. As you can see, we have Acher, a book publishing organization, Macaulay College, Ocon, And the other 3 slides are from our recent trip to Uist and Barra.
So the success of the Weilag Fund kind of speaks for itself, both in terms of numbers and its wide-reaching beneficiaries. Aside from this, we'd like to highlight a few achievements we've made over the past 4 years, them being we've attended both the Scottish and European Rural and Islands Youth Parliaments, where we've engaged with politicians, policymakers, and civil servants. We have started to work collaboratively with our local action group, or a senior local action group. And we have, in January this year, we took part in a leadership program where we learned all about our skills and abilities and how they marry up with being future community leaders in our own localities and across the Western Isles. And as part of that leadership program, we developed this mission statement, which led us on to look at our goals, ambitions, and aspirations. And from that, we've developed 3 key aspirations here. In the next year, we hope to build on the success of our Weilag Fund, although this time develop and design our own Weilag-led project. We would like to host political candidates in the upcoming Scottish parliamentary elections by means of a young person's hustings event. And more broadly, we would like to continue to network and collaborate with other youth groups, Weilags and Lags, both nationally and internationally. And that brings us on to our last slide today, sustainable development, how you can help us, how we can help you. 3 key priorities here. We would like you to recognise the Outer Hebrides Weilag as an integral part of youth-led decision-making in the Western Isles. We would like you to utilise our knowledge and experience in your own decision-making processes. And lastly, we would like you to promote and encourage youth empowerment by facilitating joint Comhairle and Eilean Shire and Outer Hebrides Weilag capital and revenue projects. Dapper Life.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you both very much for an impressive presentation. I think we can all agree in terms of the 3 priorities you listed there, you're hired by this committee. But I'd just like to invite the committee if they have any questions. Vice Chairman, Councillor MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to ask you a question, and it can be a yes, no answer, or you can elaborate. Do you think the youth of this Western Isles electorate here, do you think we're taking you seriously at Comhairle level? Do you feel that we're taking you seriously? And would you like to see greater engagement between the youth of the islands and the Comhairle?
Well, I believe it's clear to see. Yeah, I think in terms of a simple answer, yes, we would like to see more clearer engagement with the youth. But by the same token, we have also received consistent backing from our senior counterparts in the local action group to no end, and it's evident that our group is valued, and by extension, the youth voice in the Western Isles is valued. It just needs a bit more buy-in from wider council members and committees.
Thank you. Deputy Leader, Councillor McInnes, and then Mr. Macaulay. Sorry, there's too many mics on. Sorry, it was. I think Ian was first. Ian Macaulay first.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you both very much. A very, very confident and informative presentation. I'm sure it was good. What inspired you to do this, and what motivates you? How did it start? How did it all begin?
Well, I think it began with you, Hector. This is our founding member over here.
Hector meet bus. Yeah, Ross is right. It started through an opportunity that was thrown my way, and this is in the bridging between LEADER and CLLD funding was a Rural Communities Testing Change Fund, and they were seeking out a contractor to develop a youth group from scratch. And I was awarded that contractor position, and from there it started with a one-off WILAG fund of around £5,000, and the brief was simply to deliver that within the space of a couple of months. And that was done in partnership with Orkney and Shetland, but opposed to those local authorities, we managed to facilitate a group that has clearly generated some kind of legacy, because we're still here today, and it's managed to survive that bridging gap into CLLD. But anyone that's joined the group since then has joined because we all share the same ambitions of making a difference in feeling empowered by being able to make our own decisions.
And of course, there's got to be a massive thank you to Mira over here, who's been helping us navigate the council and government, and really helping us find our way as an organisation. So we all come from as I mentioned, we all come from a variety of backgrounds, but we all have the same passion. We all want to see the Outer Hebrides, improve as a place for young people. We're all passionate. We all care about our communities, and we all see where it could improve. So, yeah, it's a passion project, I would say. So it's good.
You're making Myra blush. Mr. McInnes. It's good, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First, I'll have to declare an interest. I would have got at the start of the meeting because I am a member of the CLLD group. So certainly Ross and Hector, the CLLD group have been building blocks, as I would say, or step building with the youth flag and giving them initially small amounts of money, but then they were so good at spending it that in the last budget we did allocate, was it 50,000 in this current year that we're looking at. And certainly, the unanimous decision of all members was the value that they did put in getting youth involved within the community. We had a long couple of hours, I think it was, downstairs in the chamber one evening, and it was good that was the first time that you had met with all the members, or with some of the members. But it was very, very encouraging, the way and the vision they had, and the way that they had developed the group and linking together. And one of the things that we did discuss that night was extending the geographical remit of your grouping, to cover, out with, mainly you were from Lewis. And on the back of that, we do have one of the youth lag members that now fits in on all our board meetings. So that's a building steps and enabling you to get more involved, with the larger group. And looking at CLLD in particular, we have to look at that's one of the benefits that's been developed from it. But when we look at CLLD and the good work that Myra's done, is it's started off so many other projects. So when I see the Coastal Renewal Fund that's going into Euston Barra, the seeds were sown from CLLD to start those projects. And if we have the multiplier effect from the amount of money that it does come into CLLD, and we see the benefits of CLLD, it's enormous throughout the Western Isles over the number of years since we started with LEADER. Yeah. And I would hope that Ross and Hector will be able to engage with right throughout the Western Isles. It's good that you did manage to get to Euston Barra to have a look at some of the projects that you did assist down there, and that on the back of that visit that will generate interest, you know, with the youth down in those areas to get more involved with you. Because I think the important thing as a core that we look to make sure that the benefits are spread right across the island. And, you know, it's fantastic to see you here giving your presentation here today. So thanks very much. And just shows that what little steps can be done can move into big steps, and the foundation that you have set is what I would hope would develop for the future youth of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed. Councillor Morrison and then the leader.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for the presentation. Good to see you, Hector. Good to see you in that position. And the reason I'm picking on Hector is he's in my area and my ward. I've had dealings with him before, and it's really to do with the ward, Hector. You know, at the moment we're engaging in local place plans, as you know, for the 3 areas of lochs and an overarching lochs wide local place plan. It'd be good probably to get more engagement from yourself and from Myra to buy in with our development worker, Suzanne McCauley, is putting this together with consultants. Because I know one of the things you asked was, how could we help you going forward? I think we could probably help you through our own area by buying into and engaging in the local area forums, developing these local place plans. So it'd be good to maybe get some buy-in. You might have some comment there, Hector. You might want to come in and say something. Maybe if you are aware of what's going on in your own area of park, but you know, in the wider lochs area, there's a lot going on at the moment. So I would welcome any buy-in that we could get for youth. I know Suzanne is definitely wanting to grow the youth work in the lochs area, so she could work with yourselves and with Myra's assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I wear many hats in the lochs district, as Angus has alluded to, being in the community council and my own small village association down in Maravig, and it's incredibly hard to find like-minded individuals in that sense, but it just takes a bit of talking, and eventually I've managed to find people that share the same ideas and ambitions as myself, and we're starting to create something. In regards to our own district, I think the WILAG can definitely help. Some of the ideas that Suzanne's trying to take forward, that she gets fed through from the groups there, and you know, Lochs Youth Cafe, Comhairle Cafe as well. They were both glad recipients of our fund, and that's made such a difference. Even just the equipment and the events that they've managed to put on in the halls. We're in a tough position trying to balance everybody's slightly different wants and needs in the 3 different areas, but certainly I think I have skills and expertise that would definitely help Suzanne in her endeavour. Yeah, if you have anything to add.
Thank you. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for the presentation. I don't think your tech is able to cope with your dynamic presentation skills, so people online probably didn't see your presentation, but they heard it very well, and I think that was really useful to hear. A lot of good things happening. My question, I suppose, was covered slightly by Duncan in terms of membership of the WILAG. Obviously, I'm based in Newest, and it's in terms of engagement with young people there, and if there's scope and opportunity for them to feed in and be part of the group, and same across Barra, Harris, etc. But I think that was kind of covered earlier on. My main question just relates to, and I'm not going to mix up acronyms here, but your CLLD. We obviously have a Community Learning and Development Division, which is known as CLD. Obviously, they do an awful lot of work around youth engagement as well. They look at empowering our young people and governance around different things like the MSYP, for example. I'm just wondering, what kind of engagement are you having with the CLLD? There is a danger when there's a youth group that's working well, that you get an awful lot of things thrown at you. So I'm not looking to overload your work, because I think what you're doing is really good, and I wouldn't want to dilute the focus of that. But I just think there's an opportunity there maybe to look at different aspects of youth involvement. when you were talking, I was thinking, is there a way that we could feed in and have Comhairle membership actually on the YLAG? But unfortunately, I think Ronald was the youngest of us. And no, it's Kenneth Sweeney. Anyway, wherever it is, none of us are even close to being considered youth. So with elections coming up, not next year, but the year after, you know, there's opportunities there to encourage young people to show what can happen when you get involved in community projects and actually allocating funding in ways that benefit for the people in the Western Isles. So I hope that's going to maybe take a little bit of interest in our young people to see if we can get actually some of them in the chamber.
Indeed.
It's a relationship that goes back to when I first started working on facilitating and establishing this group with CLD, and it has been broadly useful in terms of getting our name out to potential members who may want to join the group. There, obviously, like you say, the danger is a lot of crossover between what we do and they do, and very quickly our USP of having this pot of money that is we're able to spend fairly quickly became the driving force for collaborating with CLD, finding young people that would be drawn to that kind of thing, youth-led decision making, and an understanding of how, well, more broadly, like finances work and Scottish Government funds work. But we are now at the stage where maybe that's one of our key challenges at the moment. Is ironically we're all reaching our early to mid-20s now, and we're also thinking about succession planning and you know, people from the different areas, the Lewis, the Butt Barra coming in and taking our place, as we might like to go on and as members of the LAG have mentioned earlier, building their capacity as well when we reach the dreaded 3-0, the big birthday. So yeah, we continue to speak with CLD, and I do believe that it will always be a useful group of people and contacts to have in terms of membership, and we've worked out how to maybe avoid overlaps and things.
One of our members, Catherine, is also on the LAG as well, so it relates to that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So thank you.
Very good. Right, do members have any other questions? Sorry.
Kenny and welcome at Mustafa's first.
Sorry, Mustafa. Right. Ken.
I know I don't fit within the bracket of the CLL, the YLAG, but still, I'm still young at heart. So.
Rylag, retired.
So just a straightforward question. Just thank you for your presentation. That was very good. And apart from funding, what can we do to encourage our younger population to be more entrepreneurial, and how can this chamber help as well? So
I think it's a real sense of empowerment that you get from being part of this group. For example, the two of us being here today, talking in front of a near enough full council chamber is absolutely unthinkable before we joined the group. So it's the skills and abilities that it gives you being part of our group. It opens you up to opportunities, not just here, but on the mainland as well. Working with, like I say, meeting politicians, working with policymakers is it's an opportunity that is hard to come by, especially on the islands. In terms of membership in the Southern Isles, Uist and Barra, it's just quite frankly ridiculous to think that we're making all these decisions. We're putting out, as the graph showed earlier, impressive amounts of money for a small group, and we haven't had the same appetite or hunger to join the group. in the Southern Isles, and we've proved that there's absolutely no reason for that. Young people in these islands need to stand up and realise it's just ridiculous to think people in Lewis are making these decisions for us, and I guess that in a sense replicates the centralisation that we're seeing across the local authorities in Scotland. And it's good to share these experiences with other rural local authorities, other WILAGs in Scotland who are facing the same problem. So it opens doors to opportunities. We have fun. Like I say, we're in our mid-20s, so it actually kind of makes us feel a bit younger as well. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Was it Malcolm? Pastor Kenneth?
I'm not going to fight him.
Okay. Councillor MacDonald.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. You did touch on aspects of the answer I'm hoping to get, and that is year 25. I'm talking about those who are in, say, youth groups who are aged about 15 to early 20s. Are you able to facilitate them to have some training so that they can be, we're badly needing leaders in a lot of youth groups to help them to carry on and lead a group, say in Briascleit or Daliborough, etc. Do you have the funds for that, or is that a different thing and you have to apply elsewhere? Thank you.
Yeah, we do have the capacity to welcome on new members. The question of whether we have the right knowledge and understanding of how to work with those that are quite a bit younger than us, maybe 15, 16, that is a really good question. It's certainly, as I said, it's a challenge that is up and coming to us, but yeah, I'm fortunate in my previous role in the council working with those that are younger, and we continue to attend things like careers fairs, freshers fairs, the visits that we make to the youth clubs. It all exposes us to those of a certain age group who we would like to make our next, the next WILAG, the next leaders of the WILAG. It would really, really help us to get more targeted and specific training on how to work with young people.
Thank you. A very good answer.
Councillor Kenneth MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Guy, for an excellent presentation and for all that you've been doing, and thanks to Mira for all the work she's done as well with keeping you right and keeping a firm hand, I'm sure, on the tiller as well as you steer these courses. I just want to go back to the last paragraph in your vision, and something probably you touched on, but probably don't realise how important it is in talking to other young people to encourage them to get involved, and they will listen to you far more than they listen to old folk like us who want to encourage them as well. It's not just for leaders for tomorrow. We need young people involved now in community work. Community groups up and down the islands here are struggling for volunteers to run them. We need our young people to get involved, and I think the WILAG is a good. The Youth Parliament's another one. Anything that we can show the young people that they have a voice and they have a role that they can play now, not in 5, 10, 15 years time when they finish university or college or whatever, but even now. I started off at the age of 16 as a member of the it was the Lewis and Harris Youth Clubs Association then, and that was my first introduction into working in community work, and it was quite daunting, but I'm glad I did, and I think it's something we need to be getting more of our young people in. And I think, as well as being project led, just talking to young people and encouraging them to get involved, getting to the youth clubs and all the youth organisations and saying to get involved with the, for want of a better word, the adult organisations as well, and be members of it, because we need those voices. The young people are part of our community and we need to hear their perspective, not just those of us who are slightly more mature. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, just want to thank you for your presentation today. It was excellent. And in terms of the priorities you have set, it'd be really good to start a dialogue now from this day with us as a committee and as a council, and we can do that through Myra. Maybe a start could be attending this committee as observers occasionally. I know it's not an enticing offer, but it's a start. So, but I'd like to thank you again for your presentation and wish you all the best for the future, and hopefully we'll see you again here soon.
Thank you for having. Thank you.
Thank you. So do members agree to note the report and the presentation? Thank you. So we're now moving to item 4, and I'll take this in English. Are the Outer Hebrides? You're welcome to stay if you want. So the Outer Hebrides local housing strategy from 2026 to 2031. This report seeks approval of a consultative draft of the strategy, along with associated housing supply target and housing contribution statement. The consultative draft is classed as private at this stage, so if members want to ask specific questions on this document, we will need to go into private. But I'm going to ask Angela to speak to the report first, and then we'll see if there are any questions from members.
Thank you, Chair. So the draft LHS was prepared in line with Scottish Government's guidance, which places a strong emphasis on community and stakeholder engagement. So following comprehensive engagement with our communities, an LHS development workshop took place, which some of you would have attended in April of this year, where it was recommended that we continue with the 4 priorities of the previous LHS, which concentrated on housing supply, housing quality, homelessness and independent living. But we also considered adding a 5th priority on how we support and involve our communities in the work that we do. So the draft LHS has considered our housing environment, the housing need of our communities, the various housing challenges within our communities, the resources that are available to us, and our statutory duties as a strategic housing authority. So the 5 outcomes have 38 actions between them, which we hope will deliver an improved housing environment for the people who live in our islands and contribute to the stabilisation and growth of our population in line with the Comhairle's corporate objectives. And I'll speak about these individually when we look at the draft shortly in more detail. So if we consider the appendices first, I'll take them in reverse order as we're going to private with the biggest one. So Appendix 3 is the housing contribution statement. And this is the link that ties the contribution that housing makes to the work of the Integration Joint Board. It is the responsibility of the IJB to ensure that this is in place to underpin their strategic commissioning plan. And the draft housing contribution statement was agreed by the IJB last week, and it's here for you to note. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on the housing contribution statement at this point.
Questions, members?
No? Okay. Appendix 2 is the housing supply target, and this is the process that we're required to carry out to move from the statistical assessment that the housing need and demand assessment provides. The housing need and demand assessment was approved by Scottish Government in October 2023, just before the cyber attack. So we're moving from the statistical assessment to an assessment of what we believe we can realistically deliver over the lifetime or the period of the LHS. And as part of the housing supply target process, we look at a number of criteria in detail from our economy, capacity of the construction sector, availability of resources, recent development levels, and so on. And following this process, it was agreed that the deliverable housing supply over the period of the LHS would be 325 houses, 150 affordable homes, which is 30 per year, and 175 market homes, which is 35 per year. It's worth noting at this stage that we have little control over what happens in the open market, but this gives an indicative number based on previous delivery. It could be higher, it could be lower, depending on the buoyancy of the market. The housing supply target has also taken into consideration the number of homes that are coming back into stock from SACN. Around 2030 to 31, there's 94 homes at this point, 50 HHP tenancies, and 44 for a low-cost home ownership model, such as rent to buy or mid-market rent, depending on demand. So based on the evidence that we have, the housing supply target before you is the bottom line for what we believe we're able to deliver based on current and projected circumstances. It's also worth noting that the housing supply target can be revised as the SHIP is updated annually, and it's normal for them to have some differences as the SHIP is a live document. And you'll see that there are already some changes as the housing supply target was prepared and agreed in advance of the SHIP. So the housing supply targets for approval, and I'll just ask if anybody's got any questions at this stage.
Any questions, members? No. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, thank you, Angela, for the report. It's really a question on the SHIP. You know, given that all the development in the town area is coming to fruition now, how far behind are we with 55-45 split that we originally agreed for the SHIP between rural Lewis and the Stornoway area?
Let Lorraine take that one. Yeah.
Lorraine.
Okay, so this will be considered when we talk about the SHIP, but at present, in the current SHIP, without the SSCN housing, we're at 75% for the rural urban split. When that's later factored in, it drops down to, I think it's 45% rural urban. So it is skewing the target, but without that new build, we are looking at 75% rural over the next 5 years at present.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning that we're falling behind for the rural. I mean, I know some of the rural developments of, you know, there's 2 big ones in Harris, which is good, but other parts of rural Lewis, we haven't had much development over quite a number of years. Is the problem acquiring land, I wonder, or is it something to do with other factors involved? I know developers were always saying that it had to be 10 plus houses to make it affordable, but given the cost of material and everything now, has that changed as well? I know there's a SHIP project coming up later on, but I thought it'd be appropriate just to take it up, since we mentioned the SHIP just now.
Yeah, land availability is definitely an issue, and that is something that at the moment we're in the process of recruiting a new development officer, and that new person, we will be accelerating work to ensure that we're identifying as much suitable land as we can. Obviously, there are issues there. The crofting tenure is an issue, crofting resumption. With regards to construction costs, yes, they are very high at the moment. HHP are advising that 3-bedroomed house is currently coming in at 220,000 in Stornoway and over 300,000 in Barra. So the cost of materials are really driving an increase in construction costs.
Okay, Angela, you can carry on.
Thanks, Chair. We'll just move on to the consultative draft local housing strategy now, which is in private, I understand. Okay.
Can we proceed?
Okay.
Hello, public again. Recommendations then for this item are at 3.1 for your agreement. Thank you. Siwnes y gwasyd go cwsper y cwg panna yn tasgu rod niodog an y tedish 2026, 27 to 2030, 31. Is an eisiau tord ffysgwch i'r nördys leis y flanau sio. Is a Lorraine Graemoch yn y sios yn brin is yn eisg.
Thank you, Chair.
So members will be aware that we are required to submit our strategic housing investment plan to the Scottish Government on an annual basis. And this plan sets out the Cora's affordable housing supply programme priorities over the next 5 years and is prepared as informed by the objectives of the local housing strategy. And also takes into consideration a number of issues, some of which we've already discussed. So one of those is the rural-urban split, which we continue to review on an annual basis to ensure a judicial balance is attained between population retention and growth and the risk of oversupply. Waiting lists, HHP's waiting lists are telling us the majority of people are applying to live near population centres, and part of that is driven by school closures and bus service cuts, which are having an impact on where people want to or can afford to live. But rural communities are very strongly telling us that they require more housing, and social housing may not be always the answer. And we continue to look for alternative solutions, some of which have already been discussed. The availability of suitable land, as has already been discussed, for development is an ongoing issue, and we will continue to work with planning and seeking to accelerate this if possible. And we'll also continue to work with local communities to identify suitable land for development. Increasing construction costs we've discussed. And then finally, the programme of the Renewable Energy Workforce Accommodation Legacy Housing Programme is expected to boost the affordable housing supply programme by almost 160 homes in 2030-31 through a mixture of social housing, mid-market rent, shared equity, rent to buy and open market sale. But as no funding from the Affordable Housing Supply Programme is required for this unprecedented opportunity, it has been recorded separately from the SHIP's Affordable Housing Supply Programme laid out in the document at the end of the SHIP. So as a result, again, as already discussed, the current SHIP proposes 75% of its new builds are in rural areas, but this will be skewed in 2030-31 when the accommodation housing legacy comes onto stream. And we will continue, we take a view that it is critical to ensure a spread of housing development across all of the Outer Hebrides. So we will continue to seek development in rural areas. So in total, the current SHIP proposes 169 new homes, 139 of these for social rent, 20 for low-cost home ownership and 10 for mid-market rent. And it's just to emphasise that this is a live document and that the latter years of the plan are very much estimates at present. The work to determine ongoing need and identify suitable land for development continues. And happy to get any questions.
Question to be Genheimshaw. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the report. Couple of comments. One was you mentioned a risk of oversupply. Have we ever had an oversupply? It comes up in conversation every now and again that there is a risk, but how much of a risk is it having too many properties?
I suppose that depends on depopulation in certain areas which we are trying to prevent or reverse. But we are told by HHP that there have been occasions where they have struggled to fully allocate a new build development. Although they have managed in the end, they have had to trawl through the whole waiting list to find someone to take 1 or 2 houses. So it's getting that balance right.
That suggests there are people on the waiting list who are filling these houses. So again, just not entirely convinced by the risk of oversupply. People moving to population centres because of school closures as well. I think it's the other way around. I think we're closing schools because the risk of people moving to population centres because of school closures. I think schools are being closed because there aren't people in the areas. I think that's a wee bit back to front. Just a slight comment on that one. Suitable land. I've been approached by a few people who've said they put land forward and we're not approached again. I think I've heard that from a few members in the past as well. So maybe it'd be useful to kind of go through that process. The other feedback I got from people who were contacted was they were told it wasn't suitable, but not necessarily why it wasn't suitable. Questions about the quality of the land or closeness to services and facilities, and if these are issues, maybe there's some that are classed as not being able to be taken forward, but there's ways we could address it through different means. So I think maybe a bit more detail on that when that comes forward again would be useful. But apart from that, good target. 169 is good, and on top of the housing that's coming through SSEN. So glad to see the ship. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudine. Kish Big File, Eilean.
Yeah, go.
Oh, Master
Rees first. I think.
was Ray first.
Yeah.
Master Ray Mackenzie.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that the leaders raised, that it's actually which comes first, the chicken or the egg. It has happened in the past that rural schools have been closed and people just follow and move to the town area, presumably. 6.51 to date, HHP has delivered 737 new homes following stock transfer in 2026. I take it that's 2006. I think that was it.
It is indeed. Thank you for pointing out that typo.
I was saying that's real good progress.
Really good progress, yes.
Well spotted, Mr. Mackenzie. Mr. Macaulay.
Thanks, Chair. What plans is there for more shared equity houses? And can I ask that as my first question?
At present, there is demand for shared equity, but there is an issue with the construction costs and young people being able to afford, or people in general being able to afford shared equity properties. So it is something that we will have ongoing discussions with HHP over to try and identify further options for shared equity. At the moment, other than what's coming into the SSEN project, where there's nothing in the ship.
Thanks. The second part is I don't quite understand why the affordability is an issue for shared equity. The whole idea of the shared equity is they're purchasing between 60 and 80% of the value of the property. If they can't afford, and there's many people, youngsters out there that can't afford 100% of a house. I wonder personally if the targeting is correct, if the advertising is correct, if they're asking the right people. I certainly see plenty of people who jump at the chance of owning 60, 70, 80% of a house as a step forward in their housing. I don't really understand why there's not more being built all the time.
Angela. That's you on.
Just to come back on that comment, Councillor Macaulay, we've spoken to various people who are involved in shared equity, and one of the issues that they discussed with us was the issue of valuations and negative equity. The valuations are coming back pretty high, and when somebody takes on 60% of the property, they're almost immediately with the cost of sale, of resale, they almost immediately been plunged into negative equity. So there's some reluctance for some people to get to take on a shared equity property, although the demand is there for some kind of either shared ownership or low cost home ownership. That's why we're looking at rent to buy and things like that, as that seems to be more accessible to people. So.
Okay.
I think we'll probably just agree to disagree, I think. Thank you.
Well, that's a fact. Okay, Mab. Oh, Deputy Leader.
Right, just one final point. I was looking through the areas, you know, in the investment from 2026 to 2031, and when you were making reference to land being available, I understood there was land available in North Eust and Loch Maddie, and I'm not seeing it here, you know, and I was wondering, you know, from a North Eust point of view, I understood that there was land in Loch Maddie that was available, and how come it's not showing on, you know, any future investment plan? I don't know what maybe the North Eust councillors will be able to highlight, you know, on this. You know, where is the land, and if it's available, and if there's demand in Loch Maddie for people to move there, how come it's not included in the plan that we're seeing in front of us? Just maybe the North Eust wants members. That's what I understood anyway.
Okay, Mustafa.
Thanks very much, Duncan, for bringing that. That was one of the things that was going to be brought up. Yeah, there is land available, serviced and ready to go. Myself and my colleague, Ushta Robertson, had some discussion with the developer and had discussion with HHP. There is some ongoing discussion at the moment that I was going to raise with Lorraine as well. And I think John has been part of the conversation. So yeah, there is land available. The land is ready to go, and I think there is about 22 service plots available. So it's something that's in discussion at the moment. But I don't know. Obviously, I was gonna raise it. It's not appearing in the document here, but
okay. Do you want to come back, Mr. McInnes, briefly, please? You can put your mic off, Mustafa.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's useful to get that information, because there will be a business planning session at HHP. Ian, Councillor MacLeod and I will be attending that, and it'll be useful to know. But one of the things is there demand in that area for housing. So there, yeah, that's fine. Just to know that in advance of, you know, a business planning session at HHP. I think it's probably within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Do
You want to get back in briefly?
Just about the demand, obviously there is at the moment a process, been in touch with all the businesses around the area to highlight, to evidence the demand that's needed in the area. So there is definitely, hopefully all that evidence will be submitted to Lorraine and to HHP as well. So
Thank you, Leader.
Thanks. Just some clarification. So the figures that we have in here, HHP work to these figures. So it's us that give HHP the figures. I think that's what they've told us in the past. They work to the ship. So if we're aware that there's 22 potential houses in Loch Maddie, should we not be putting that in here and encouraging HHP to reach that target? Or am I getting that wrong? Is this back to front?
It is my understanding that at present there are 5 households on the waiting list for Loch Maddie and a further one on the transfer list. So that is why HHP aren't wishing to proceed at present, but it is something with which we can have ongoing discussions. And I suppose it's, if you are aware that there is demand, it's to encourage people to put their names on the waiting list, because their names aren't on at present.
Sorry, just my point about the ship. Is it us that's telling HHP what to do, or are they telling us what they're going to do?
I think that's where we come back to the question of oversupply, and we would need to demonstrate demand.
Do we need to do that, or do HHP need to? That's, I'm just, like I say, I'm still not quite clear. Are we saying that we think this should be happening and we need to provide the evidence, or are HHP telling us what they're going to do? Just a clarification on the process on the ship. as a whole.
Mhm.
Sorry for coming back on the same point, but just because we do get told by HHP that they work to the ship. So if we're aware that there's potential development in Lochmaddy and we'd like it to go ahead, then we should be putting it in the ship, whether HHP are willing to do it and whether
Yeah.
there's the demand or not.
Yeah. It is our strategic plan at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can
Okay, thank
follow
you.
that up. Okay. Final word.
just one
A final
final
word
point.
from Councillor
Yeah.
McInnes.
Well, I raised it because I got copied into an email that Councillor Hussain and Councillor Robertson did send out to businesses in North Uist. So I would imagine it was what demand or was lack of housing preventing them from, getting people to work in the area. So I would imagine that you will get feedback on that very shortly. And it would be useful if we hear what feedback you get on that very, very quickly.
I hope this is
Councillor
I hope this is the final word, but we did agree with HHP when we met with them, Chair, to send round a questionnaire, which we did, to 40 odd businesses in North Uist, and we're gathering that information at the moment, which clearly states a huge demand from business to have extra housing.
Yeah.
They're having problems in terms of employment, and we've had some very good responses to date, which makes a nonsense of some of what's coming forward in terms of only 5 houses needed, So certain businesses have already said they would need that amount themselves. So we're just collecting that information just now. But we have put out a survey around 40 odd businesses. So
Well, that feedback and information should be
Yeah.
reflected in
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
planning. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think, as Lorraine said, it is a live document. So as if additional proof and evidence comes in, then we can work with HHP to update the ship accordingly.
And we do review it halfway through the year as well, don't we? Okay, maha. Sin seo go críoch. Bhfuil baile cynntach na máin ag 3 pointe hen. Thank you. Cwsbar sia fysrwch me woi anwachel an aas gytor fysrwch don dofail ar heis lesach in woi anwachel ysgylach awn eis chmicho in ysgaw. Eis a Ian Connigan an a sios yn brinish yn aasg. Yeah, tapelet.
Thanks, Chair. It's just an update for members on the status of the various renewable energy developments, grid, onshore wind, offshore wind and hydrogen. Worth noting that the transmission link was approved in principle last week, so we're now into a phase of matter specified in condition. And then we have, for background, we have 3 onshore winds already consented, 3 onshore wind schemes already consented, and 2 offshore wind schemes coming into the planning system. But happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McCormack first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, John, for the report. It's a very useful document. I'd like to draw members' attention to paragraph 5.3, where John's report gives us the history of the 1.8 gigawatt transmission link. It became an instruction of the transmission owner, which essentially is just the government. And at that point, this authority had no real jurisdiction over what was going on. In other words, what I'm saying is that the best thing we could possibly do is what we did, and that is retain control over the planning situation, because had we not maintained control over the planning situation, all of the conditions that we listed, and they were very strict conditions, would be lost, and the matter would then go to the Scottish Government, who would then rule on it because it's a national priority, and we would have had no say in this council in what's happening. Now, I have quite a history in this council in terms of renewables. I've been very, very strong in voicing my support for community renewables. But we are where we are, and we have to deal with the situation in reality, and that's very important. And I notice, well, there has appeared in my Facebook page a petition whereby they want the people putting forward the petition want people to ask the Scottish Government to call this matter in. That would not be good for this council's position in terms of controlling what's going to happen. We have laid down very strict conditions, and the report that comes from Morag later in your agenda emphasises that fact. And so I think the decision that we took at the planning committee was absolutely 100% correct. That I know is a statement and not a question, but I do have a question, if I may. And I have to declare an interest in that. I am the honorary president point in Sandwich Power, because I would like to ask a question about community renewables and their position. As I understand it at the moment, there is nowhere on this interconnector for community renewables. It's all been taken up by the bigger organisations. That's my understanding of it, and I'm happy to be corrected. But I'm wondering just exactly how we as a council can maybe take the interests of community renewables forward. I know that we talk to CES and other organisations. I know we talk to the individual wind farms. But is there something we should be doing in terms of lobbying on behalf of the collective? Because I know that not only are there new community wind farms who've never been able to put anything forward because they can't get a position on the grid, but also the current extant community renewables companies have an interest in extending what they are doing. My own company, for example, would like to increase its output. And as things stand at the moment, we can't do anything at all about that. So I wondered if perhaps we have a clear idea of what the demand is from community renewables for the future, and if there is something that we might do as a council to support that demand. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. The leader and chief executive did meet with Michael Shanks, MP, the energy minister, last week, I think 10 days ago. So the point was made that the grid queue configuration is not helpful for communities. And we asked for a derogation for Eilean community renewables to be allowed space on the grid, regardless of whether they're, when they say first ready, first connected, it means you've spent millions of pounds in planning and development costs, and that's out with the reach of communities. So we asked, could there be a derogated capacity on the link for communities? He was certainly open to that. In terms of capacity, the capacity figure that's quoted would include the 2 RWE applications, which aren't through consenting yet. There's no guarantee that they will be consented. It also includes 2 offshores that have yet to come into the planning system. And the other point is that the actual, technically the cable that's being installed by SSEN is of 2 gigawatt capacity, managed down to 1.8 for reliability, I believe. So there are different angles we could take on that to see what we can do for communities.
Any other questions from members? Just Mr. Mackenzie.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure what that means at the end of the day, because are you saying that when Angus McCormick mentions that basically the transmission is capacity is full, and you're saying it's not 1.8, it's 2, but it's been, for safety's sake, it's come back to 1.8. Is there no scope for community turbines, which to my mind has always been a desirable situation, like Point and Sandwich Power and Tulsa and so forth?
Yeah, we do expect some derogation, Councillor Mackenzie, some attrition in the demand for the cable. as I've said, RWE might not get through consenting, they might be reduced in scope. The offshores might change. So there's that factor, plus there's the 2 gigawatt possible capacity. So we think that looking at the wider sector, there is quite a bit of attrition in offshore wind, North Sea, so we expect to see some changes locally, and maybe there might be some capacity released.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McInnes?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, John, for an updated report. And clearly, as a caller, you know, this has been progressed by the call over the last 20 years, I would say, and by previous councillors and over that period of time. And they had the vision, and officers had the vision to hang on in there when they were going 2 steps forward and 3 back at many, many years. And the decision that was made by the call, I think, was the right decision. There's no doubt about that. By moving forward and being in control, along with the conditions that we do have with the predetermination that was approved by, not planning, but by full council last week, is the best way forward that we can see in our generation of increasing population. And many other people all other agencies are saying that population retention and increasing is paramount if the islands are going to prosper and go forward. So I think as a corner, we're making sure that moving forward with renewables, which I see as our oil potential, to what Shetland did. And the important thing is getting that community benefit right. And part of those conditions was working with High and others to make sure that maximum community benefit was returning to the islands. And the community projects that have gone ahead have demonstrated that that is. And hopefully the west side estate owners that are looking for some like 20 megawatts, that some flexibility can be achieved to get them onto the 1.8. There'll be some flexibility to allow them on. But moving forward, I think this is the best opportunity. We've already seen the benefit of the houses that are going up with SSEN, and that coming into back about £20 million or something. So the seeds have been sown already, and we're seeing the opportunity for local contractors for the Arnish Road and that. So the work has already started, and development of the Caledonian Hotel, which is linked in to that development. So we're already seeing the benefits to locals in the community, and hopefully getting people that will start an apprenticeship on those house building and be finished on that apprenticeship and linking in with Arnish and with the hydrogen hub. It's an excellent plus for us as a corner to have persevered for so long at it.
Just to note that Councillor Gordon Murray has had to leave the meeting, but he has left a number of questions in the chat, which will be emailed to Mr. Cunningham for an expeditious response. So just to note that. So, well, Bail, very briefly, please. There's another meeting at 4 o'clock.
I'm not taking up a lot of your time, sir. I just wonder, do we know if there is likely to be a derogation which allows community wind to go on? I would like all of community wind to get a chance to go on. So do we know what that figure is so that we can discuss that with the government if that decision ever comes?
Chair, it was just a possibility that was discussed, but the minute we have a figure, we will of course share with members and feed that back to the communities.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, Bail Gundiger and ask a hard fanier. Tap alive. Kusper Shek, Javatus Nicola and a Yuritusin Javachi Moor is Nashenta, and I showed toward Pisuchig the Veil. Lesnes and Cola and a big Ketochig Desikin Moor is Nashenta is Hamorik sio gyma ffragwch a sio yn hech yn y haig, mae'n ei blisyn i'r sio dystraia, ha môr yn y sio person blinis yn aisg.
I believe. The report for members sets out the 3 scenarios in which the Comhairle is involved in the consenting of large-scale renewable energy developments, including electricity transmission. The first of these, the determination of applications for planning permission, which are made direct to the Comhairle as planning authority. The report provides examples of typical development types that would be the subject of a planning application and notes the circumstances in which Scottish ministers could become involved in such applications. The second scenario is for energy-related applications for consent for onshore development made under the Electricity Act 1989, and that's both for energy generation proposals exceeding 50 megawatts in capacity and certain categories of transmission infrastructure. In these cases, Scottish ministers have equivalent powers to planning authority in that ministers can grant a deemed planning permission for such developments. The report notes the role of the Comhairle as a principal consultee, and members should note that the Comhairle has, as the relevant planning authority under the legislation, would have 4 months time period to respond to consultation on these applications. The report also highlights the implications of failing to respond timely to such applications. The third scenario is one which is less familiar to the Comhairle. This is the consenting system for offshore renewables. Members will be aware that the terrestrial planning system does not extend beyond the limits of mean low water springs, except where an application is for marine fish farming development. For these applications, 2 consents are required. So 2 consents are required for an offshore generating station. So these are an application for a marine licence, and secondly, an application for a Section 36 consent to operate a generating station under the Electricity Act of 1989. Marine Scotland are the administrative body tasked to manage both these consents simultaneously on behalf of Scottish ministers. Planning permission is not required for the offshore elements of such development. The relevant legislation for determining these applications is the Electricity Works Environmental Impact Assessment Scotland Regulations of 2017, the Electricity Act of 1989, and the Electricity Application for Consent Regulations of 1990. Members may wish to note that unless the Marine Directorate is minded to grant an extension of time to respond to a consultation, the Comhairle will have just 30 days to respond to any such consultation. These consultation requests will come with an extensive EIA that will require planning to review and to consult other departments internally in order to frame a recommendation for a response by the Comhairle. Extension requests to consultation deadlines are considered by Marine Directorate on a case-by-case basis. The report also provides a link to Scottish Government guidance on both Section 36, Section 37 consenting, and to marine, a link to the Marine Directorate's licensing pages, and also provides a link to new guidance that has recently been published by Planning Aid Scotland. This designed to help communities navigate the consenting process for large-scale renewables. Members may wish to share that Planning Aid Scotland information further. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Warwick. Any questions from members? At this point? No. Oh, sorry. Councillor Francis Murray.
Thanks very much, Chair. I think that last point is an important one about sharing the information, because I think probably a lot of this is not in the general public's domain, and even last week we saw members of the public not aware of the role of the council and councillors in planning debates, and perhaps having different expectations of us than we were able to give in advance of the debate. And I think all publicity of this sort of involvement of councillors, involvement of the community would be beneficial for everyone involved in the process. So as wide a dissemination of this information as possible is really beneficial, I think.
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Are there any other questions? Again, just to note that Councillor Murray has left the meeting and he has left some questions in the chat that will be emailed to Morag to respond to in due course. Thank you. So, Bill Boyle Gunther in Ask a Hort Fanier. At live squasset go Kuspar Hook. Doges uit Coulter. En I saw toward Minoch Europa Conner le Shadavas Doges le 2025 sa Calan Shorish and a Shawson Brinish in Ask.
Tapel of Harike, can you Kuzakam Rikrusnaish, Gakjuk, Alabai, Harik Rutnaga, Marikishop, Shep, Leona Gamatrangavan, and a skipper Rish, Gaharish, Hulabert, Ice Natashpanian, Eradok. Maar hoort me Hatchman Dinoch, so me, others nach Giroch, Tank, Horgan a skipper, Fat, or Sonning Hujoproch, and Humbertonshire. He boil ek paragraph Shia.Shack, is Shack.Kehath, and Ice, Conversion physically Magaridu, Rash, one and Yain, and ek a hurlorn, ek Natashpanian, ek is Kuchok and Yain Walahath, ek Hulabert. Bottom time Kuchok Horgan a boil, Hook Taiking. Ik na tacher tussen de werking had ik nog meer nog gezegd. Gehaald en kan het mis naar weer kleintje nog heen print daar is. Tijd gehoord kunnen bij hoek tijd in zo'n tacher tussen had ik nog meer nog gezegd. Gehaald en een valaat de hier denk en de gelaberd ik kastel luis. Ik jaren nijpoike hun. Is nijpoike gagen en is keyboil kushje erdus making. Have chakisjach. Is innovash. Ha de donations of fast core tijget no %. Is aan de project aan de buurmuseum het aardige gereisje miljoens. Ha Isabel McLachlan is skippen was opeth at the end of the show. Ha is een naam die gezegd. Is beetje reist vier niet dooien. Larak het na stuur als je rekens of u liatig in afland. Han Hasklan, dat weet gemaakt gereisd tot tijd dat projecten gemaakt kutermog maar exemplar 150. Is station is Caroline Kujak die jail gereisd in Hoa was question van de voetbal. Scherwijs archeologische koerle Kujak gemaakt le projecten lesig zellen is een kamal taikri rein flanne. Misschien is nationjok hashin gma moichel is ne gai holene harish de leende gai shagat hashin kujok lan is akin gewal tor oplakin hasianov joch me other who accreditation before ik bail gewashin ground as can hort hukuf my in accreditation I guess kushin knieven riat nog go museum gallery in de halappe so vast bliones I guess wat duurlijk in die frakkert in gaan shiamiasen gaat de hagelschen ach für mich fürs Wopen haken je ra nach ikal a kiare de kuschen huk ach jokel dal moor wie hu achkesen gakuschen hu gilok oproch smoshinje ha duurlijk in de fusarash wopen is en er gonnie som handelaken se jaren in aflon is kortikischen kobail de joshinja tolish questions me dagert garige tapelig
Clear, Karen. Christian Robertson.
Kishtek Michelle, gaan je koers dan als Kishel. Kan men dat ook even hoe bescruut tegen hoe ne star en de leeuws zeggen star en dorm ben je veel. Hij is wel kennel zo wie ik ken die en die accreditation en als je wil.
Wel, kan je kiel sumian, kan je kiel verrommel sumian, gewoon overstaan ach. Misschien je maar skippen, je priels en wakker miljoen dus gelaberd is een taspnien. Wakker maak je er nog groot focus skippen dus een nuskels schachat, maar af en toe plan ik niet wakker in zijn voorplan. Je na vriendjes haking als een plan die chak, je na storen, maar hoor u is kutjok a refresh an hij taski, skas bijtjach blianne voor askela had lich grutch. Ha ar ik dagin ha meunig jakin son offigath Heritage Projects Officer, benadwitchen dolmach as een neuloch, so bis nog skum kutjigen as a fostchen, as een reaction tra naflon, is bi njachchen putige dart, lische projectchen, maar afis aku, shishin priavagus in a skippe.
Daniela, son hin check naam zo. Joris Murroch. Well, you wanted to, I thought you wanted to come in, George. Sorry. Okay, Ray. Ray Mackenzie.
Thanks, Chairman. I just want to congratulate the museum and the archive, for the service, for what they do under difficult circumstances. And, I've been in there quite often and they've really done a great job. And of course, probably not many people know about the archive service as much as the museum, but it's a fantastic facility. There's just one point I'd make that under 10.5, that one night, I think it was in 1980, there was a public meeting held and there was a number of people appointed to do two different committees. One was KNO, and the chairman is sitting over there, and also Hebrides Against Nuclear Dumping, and the chairman sitting here. So
we don't want to go to
back in
prehistoric
time.
times.
One thing I would say about that is that Hebrides Against Nuclear Dumping must have achieved its work a lot quicker than KNO, because we finished up in about 2 years, but I think it took about 10 years to beat NATO anyway. I'm sure Angus will say something about that.
I'm happy to say that that was 1990. June of 1990, the Tory government decided they would not create a NATO base at Stornoway.
Thank you, Jen. Just remember, this isn't the Historical Society. It might be the Hysterical Society, but it's not the Historical Society.
But nonetheless, the connection between historical societies and the archive service is very, very important indeed.
Of course it is.
We need to nurture our historical societies.
Indeed. Okay, Maha. Okay. Na morgen ek son intoch ek 3 pointe hen. Nisig was a kusper en neu lesach economicoch and now show es on fissachach, wienochach, en urtis le kolonach, priavachsen, ro iemand ek shadowach anuachach en economicoch aus konschnoch 2025-26 Elias Schlier Tronneblione as a Anna Dovrinische Nash.
Thank you, Chair. So a reasonably long report, so I'll just draw your attention to some specific elements. And as said in your introduction, this is just our half-year progress report for the Economic and Community Regeneration Service, outlining how we're delivering against the corporate strategy and the business plan at this stage in the year. So if you want to look at section 7, that just provides detail of where we're making progress on some major projects. So under the Island Steel, we're continuing to make good progress on the food and drink programme, the Energy Hub and Spaceport 1. Detailed at section 77.5, there's detail on the support that the regeneration team have managed to secure from the Islands programme. So 4 organisations have secured a total of 1.3 million in funding from the Scottish Government Islands programme. And we also have all projects that were put forward for RCGF were successful at stage 1, and the deadline for stage 2 applications is the end of this week. So total value of applications going forward to stage 2 is 3.4 million. Looking at section 7.6 onwards, that just discusses the activity of Business Gateway. Really excellent performance there in relation to job creation and job safeguarding, and also in terms of the number of business startups being supported. Inquiries have decreased, but you'll see the extremely strong performance of the Corless Business Gateway service compared to other Scottish local authorities. There's also some details in that section on the ongoing funding from Shared Prosperity Fund that's supporting a range of projects at marine facilities across the Outer Hebrides. Other work going on in terms of the fishery sector is just seeking to purchase additional fishing quota. That's been explored by the lead officer in that that works on that sector. Looking at section 7.12, we have commissioned a new local biodiversity action plan, so that work is underway, and the nature restoration funding that the Comhairle received for this financial year, that has all been approved and the recipients have been informed. Obviously, you've had a detailed report on the work of the Culture and Heritage team, so there is further detail there regarding the immigration exhibition and also the associated conference, and also the work of Skip and Gaelic in terms of the Eilean Stornoway initiative that has commenced, and work to issue small grants, and also the Comhairle's successful Gaelic student placement scheme. Section 720 onwards discusses the significant work that's been undertaken in the period on the housing strategy and the SHIP, which has been discussed earlier, and also provides an update on the progress of the development plan. Lots of work ongoing there to inform the detail of the plan, although worth noting that the development plan manager has had to support the development management team. So there has been there will be some kind of knock-on impact on progress with the LDP as a result. Looking at section 7.25 onwards, that just confirms that building standards really back to kind of business as usual following the cyber attacks. So we're seeing evidence of improved performance there. And 7.30 just confirms that all the CLLD capital has been allocated already in this financial year, so good outcomes there. And also that section provides an update on local place plans. So we now have 2 local place plans published on the Comhairle website, and we are aware that a number of other communities are looking to bring forward local place plans. The final section of the report, section 8, just confirms that departmental service budgets are within tolerance, and that the workforce plan has been approved, and we're now just monitoring progress with the actions in the workforce plan. So happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Anne. Any questions, Leader? Any other mics on? Sorry, that's it.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think it's an excellent report. There's an awful lot of positive things happening in the department, so it's good to see the figures are moving in the right direction in a lot of areas. My question just relates to 7.10. I think it's a good initiative, the additional fishing quota being sought. I'm just wondering if the processing in Stornoway and Uist, if there's in the process of looking for support funding from RCGF or any other funding streams. Are they in the system, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
Thank you. I'm not aware if they're needing any additional investment, but they will be in touch with Ian Kennedy, so we will be able to direct them to any additional investment opportunities if they need them.
It's really exciting proposals there, so thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from members? It's a significant report, and it's only halfway through the year. Okay, Comhairle. No, I'm not from you anyway. No. Fel baile gyntach náis go hort van je. Eva kusper da jök ashkin reach to heen. Session on fiscal. So given it's our last meeting of this year, I just want to thank you as members for your contributions to the work of the committee. I want to thank officers and their support staff for all their hard work and really appreciate it. And we want to wish you all a happy Christmas and a prosperous new year when it comes. And the next meeting of the committee will be on Tuesday, the 3rd of February, 2026. DV.